What's up, it's Cinema Shogun here for my first ever Q&A video. Well, technically, this is my second ever Q&A video because I did a members only Q&A in my members only section. If you would like to see that Q&A, then become a channel member today. But anyways, I wanted to do a Q&A just for my entire audience because I know that a lot of you all have questions and I have the answers to those questions. So what I'm going to do here today is I'm going to answer some of the questions that you all sent over. Now, the first question that I have to answer is, of course, where are my dogs and why don't I have my dogs on my channel anymore? I get this question probably more than any other question. Well, the answer is months ago, I made the decision to no longer have my dogs on my channel for various reasons, but for one reason in particular that really drove this decision home for me. From the get-go, I've been on YouTube way before I ever had my dogs on my YouTube channel with me. I brought my dogs on YouTube with me when I was covering the Gabby Petito case because the Gabby Petito case for me was something different than I'd ever talked about. Don't get me wrong, I've looked into true crime cases. I've watched plenty of true crime content. I've watched all of the true crime shows on television, but I personally had never covered a true crime story. And I can tell you from experience that covering a true crime story and watching other people cover a true crime story, it's totally different. So I brought my dogs on those videos to comfort me, as well as to comfort my audience, because a lot of you all, or a lot of the people who were watching my channel back then, that was their first big true crime case that they got invested in. So it was like one of those things that was comforting not only me as I was making my videos, but it was comforting my audience. But I never wanted to grow this reliance on having to have my dogs on me with my videos. Audiences, they grow reliant on things. When you have a particular thing in your background, or you do things a particular way, if you have a particular guest on your show, or if you always have dogs on your videos, they grow to expect that all the time. And in the type of content I create, it's not going to be good for me to grow this audience that is relying on hoping that they're going to see my dogs, because I'm covering news stories. And the bigger I get, the further I take this channel, the less you're going to see of them anyway. So I already knew that my goal was to eventually start live streaming, getting different equipment. So that was never the route that I wanted to go. Also, there was another YouTuber out there that went and purchased dogs for like the sole purpose of trying to be like me. And he made similar content to me and literally like bought new dogs and named them Gabby. It was really weird. So that was another situation that weirded me out. Also, once I started doing YouTube, I am not the most professional YouTuber in the world. I think we all know that. I am far from the most professional YouTuber. But once I started taking it more seriously and I'm pumping out 4 or 5 videos a day, I can't expect my dogs to be with me in every one of those videos, and that's not right to them. But that was just always something that was on my mind. But even with that, I would have still brought my dogs on random videos here and there. It's just something that I wouldn't like. It wouldn't be a staple. Every video you watch, I have one of my dogs with me. But a weird situation happened that really solidified that decision for me. For one, when I was covering the Gabby Petito case, everyone seemed to be kind of on the same page with that case. I would get crazy messages or hate mail and stuff here and there, but it wasn't a toxic, weird, crazy environment. If anything, it was a loving environment. And I got an outpouring of love while covering the Gabby Petito story. But going forward in YouTube, it became clear to me that I didn't want to get too personal, and I didn't want to put things on my channel that were a part of my personal life that could also be targets of attack as well, if that makes sense. I don't know if it's just me. I know other people get crazy messages as well, but it feels like the path that I've taken on YouTube has pissed a lot of people off. I have multiple fandoms of just the craziest people you can imagine constantly at my neck, sending me threats, and it's become really toxic. It went from like this loving environment where I'm just getting, a lot of love, basically. A lot of people telling me they appreciate my content and this, that, and the third. And, haters are going to come, but since that Gabby Petito story covering like Britney Spears, I'm like public enemy number one for Britney Spears fans. Ezra Miller, I'm like public enemy number one for Ezra Miller fans. And, the list goes on and on. Every single celebrity that I've covered, because I am not like an ass kisser and I tell the truth in my coverage, I've created a lot of people who do not like me. So that let me know that, hey, and especially with all of this Kylie Rodney stuff too, if you think for 1 second that I want to get personal or include things from my personal life on my YouTube channel after all of that stuff, hell fucking no. Hell no. But I was out of town. I had a friend that was coming and staying at my house and walking my dogs for me. And while she was at the dog park with my dogs, one of my viewers recognized my dogs, sparked a conversation with my friend, and the conversation wasn't mean or anything. If anything, from the way she described it, it was more of like a feeling for information. And then she felt really weirded out, like the person kind of followed her around the dog park. And it was like a wake-up call for me in realizing, okay, I never really realized the outreach some of my videos could have, because sometimes I make a video and 2,000 people watch it. Sometimes I make a video and 800,000 people watch it. And that was like a wake-up call for me in realizing, yeah, I don't want anything about my personal life really on my channel. I don't even want to bring my dogs on my channel because of all of the weirdos. Now, this is not to say that one day in the future, if things calm down and gain some sense of normalcy, that I won't bring my dogs back on my channel. Before my channel members have seen my dogs recently. It's that, like, the climate for being a YouTuber right now and everything that's going on, I don't feel comfortable. I almost didn't even want to do this Q&A video because it just, things have been really crazy. And I know that you all don't understand that because you're on the other side of the fence, if you will, and you're on the outside looking in. But I can assure you, if you saw the type of stuff that I receive and get sent on a daily basis, and I'm not here to complain about it or play the victim. I usually don't even talk about it. But if you saw the type of stuff I get sent, then you would understand my decision into why I don't really want to be that person or anything. And it seems like even in the true crime community now, it's all about drama and toxicity and going after each other. It's no longer about the victims and the victims' families, and I don't want no part of that madness. But that's why I haven't had my dogs on my channel in a while. But if you pay attention closely, they're still a part of my channel because you will hear them snoring in the background of my videos and barking. I've gotten complaints about that. I didn't realize that my camera was picking up on their snoring so hard. So if you go back in my videos, you can hear them snoring in the background a lot. More often than I'm proud of. All right, what motivated me to start uploading news and commentary videos? Well, I'm going to warn you all right now, this is going to be a long-ass video because I have long-winded answers. What motivated me to start uploading news and commentary videos? Well, I started out as a movie channel. I was just going to review movies and talk about movie news. But the more I looked around, I could never find a voice that really stuck out to me. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like there was an empty void of people just telling it like it is. everything around me felt so PC, so fake. The mainstream media, they always have their own agendas when they cover news. So I felt like, hey, maybe I could step up and do this, because I'm the type of person where I'm interested in a lot of different things at once. And I've always been interested in things that are going on in the world. And I'm also interested in pop culture. And like in the pop culture world, for sure, I feel like there's a lack of real voices. Everything, like I said, it's so politically correct. It's so woke. Everyone's walking around tiptoeing on eggshells about what they say. And then when it comes to coverage of certain celebrities, it's always like people with this fandom mentality where this person can do no wrong or that person can do no wrong, and we must stand them and be a fan of them and back everything they do. And I'm totally against that mentality. So I felt like I could be a voice of reason for some of these stories, like the Britney Spears situation, for example. That craziness has been allowed to go on for months on end, and no one was saying anything about it. So I felt like, hey, I'll step up and say something about it. And now it seems like other people have been emboldened to finally speak up as well. And speaking of Britney Spears, there was another question asking me if I would ever collab with KL Cool. I do not do live streams right now. Going into the future, 2023, that is my goal, to start a live stream. I can tell you all right now, I'm not going to ever be the guy that's going to sit there and live stream for 16 hours a day. I'm not going to be here for 8 hours speculating over the death of a teenager, on a live stream. That's not me. But I will start live streaming sometime in 2023. And that answers another question as well. Some of these questions, I'm going to be answering their questions while answering other questions within the answer to that question. So if that makes sense. That was kind of like something out of the Matrix right there. I'm going to answer that question with the question from another question and then this answer. But yeah, I plan on live streaming in 2023. I have particular goals for this channel, and once I reach those goals, that's when I plan on kicking off the live streaming on my channel. And when I do live stream, KL Cool is most definitely welcome. If you all don't know who that is, it's like the only, I don't want to say the only, but as far as I've seen, it's like the only other person out there that's really calling out Britney and the Britney situation. So go check her channel out. I don't collab with many people. I don't really look forward to collabing with many people, but me and KL Cool would definitely have a fire Britney stream. So I will do that in the future. How do I feel knowing I have an impact on people when spreading news and awareness on issues? That is a weird feeling, because YouTube can be so weird and tricky. Like, I never expected to be where I'm at on YouTube today. I started out talking about stuff, and out of nowhere, the subscribers started rolling in and the views started rolling in, and it takes a while for you to adjust to your newfound platform. And it takes a while for you to realize that what you're saying is no longer for as intimate of an audience as it used to be. I fully believe that there's levels of responsibility. Like when you're sitting down and you're talking to your friends or you're talking to 50 people, I feel like you have more leeway to say things that maybe wouldn't be the best thing to say if you got 50 million people watching you. Does that make sense? So it's one of those things where it's like, you have to come to that realization. And I feel like the problem with a lot of YouTubers is they haven't come to that realization. YouTube, it's really easy to feel like a one-man show in a way. It's really easy to feel like everything on YouTube is just revolved around you. At least when you're running your own channel and you're not one of these bigger channels with like 17 assistants and groups who are helping you come up with stories and thumbnails. But when you're just you running your YouTube channel, it's easy to block everything else out and just to focus on you and what you're doing. And I feel like a lot of people don't realize the impact their videos can have on other people and the impact the information they're getting across can have on other people. So the longer that I'm on YouTube, the more responsible I feel like I will grow, because I still have a lot of growing to do. There's still a lot of things that I need to learn to do better. And there's various things that I can word better. But it's like, it's weird waking up one day and realizing, okay, what I say on this video today can not only have an impact on my viewers, but it can have an impact on the overall news story or the situation that I'm covering. So I try to be as careful as possible with the information that I share. I don't just pick up on any news story that's out there, but often I do pick up on news stories before other people do. And sometimes, people get a bad taste in their mouth about that because they can't necessarily fact check what I'm saying with other sources because there aren't other sources out there yet. I'm the source. But it's one of those weird things where you have to slowly come to the realization about the impact you can have on people. And, I definitely like the fact that I have a platform that I could use to spread awareness about certain things. But I will say it's also frustrating. It's frustrating because I believe that me and my channel could raise awareness about so much stuff, like a variety of things. And I feel like we could have a bigger impact. But the powers that be, and this is one thing you'll learn if you have a YouTube channel, they stifle you and they silence you from talking about certain things. It's like they kind of discourage you from wanting to go certain routes. But yeah, it's a good feeling, but it's also a feeling of, okay, I know that I have a responsibility not to just get on camera and just spew fake information out of my ass like a lot of people do on YouTube. So it's definitely something that I take seriously. What was my favorite subject in school? That's really an easy question, but I really liked English because I was always good in English. It was just like, I didn't even need to take English class. But history has to be my favorite subject. I've always been deeply intrigued by history, reading history books. I am horrible at math, not good at science, but history and English, it's just like, it's like nothing to me. My only problem with learning history in school was that it was watered down. Half the time it was fake. And because it was just like, I was so far beyond what was being taught in our history books. Because I had already had this like thirst for knowledge and information about history. So I sought out all that information well before we learned about it in school. So I always felt like it was an easy subject for me. I would be interested in certain topics, but it just felt like I was above what they were teaching in school as far as history goes, for sure. My biggest influence on my life. My biggest influence on my life would probably be my grandfather. Me and my grandfather, I never had a father figure. I was raised by my mother, and my grandparents lived really close by. So they helped raise me as well. And my mother passed away when I was 15, so they helped, raise me for the last few years until I got on my own. And my grandfather had a huge impact on my life. And he's passed away now, and I don't know if he ever realized that, because me and him butted heads a lot. Like, me and my granddad butted heads a lot. My granddad was raised in World War II Germany. He came over here on a boat when he was like 16, 17 years old. He lived in a freaking bomb bunker for a lot of his life, a lot of his childhood. So he had it really rough growing up. So my granddad was not like the sweet, old man type. He was rough and rugged and firm and stern and almost like mean, if you will, but not mean in like abusive way, but just mean. Like, like they don't make men like they made them back then, and my granddad was a man's man. So me and him butted heads a lot because I'm a hard-headed person. I'm a Taurus. I'm a hardhead and I do not deal well with authority, which is why I always like being my own boss. And I've always throughout my life tried to make decisions and put things into place so I could basically be my own boss. So me and him would always butt heads and not get along, but he instilled so many different values in me. And from the conversations we had, even when I was younger, and I would just dismiss what he would say and write it off, oh, you're just old, it all sunk with me. And he was right about damn near everything. Kids, if you're watching this video, my advice to kids is always this. I promise you, adults always sound stupid when you're a kid, but when you get older, you realize, like, damn, they were telling the truth. They were definitely telling the truth. So I always tell kids, like, listen to your elders, even when you think they're stupid, because chances are they know better than you. And it's like, even at the age of 31, the older I get and different things happen throughout my life, and there's lessons that he taught me that are still coming up to this day where it just like a bell rings in my head, like, oh, my granddad did warn me about that. My granddad was right about this one. So my granddad, beyond the grave, is still proving to me that he is right all the time. And we're still butting heads to this day. But he's definitely had the biggest influence on my life. What steps do I take to take care of my mental health? That's a good question. For me, I think the way that I view life and the way I approach life is kind of like a shield that I put up already to deflect some issues that other people may deal with, because I just don't look at life as seriously as a lot of people do. And some people may say that's a bad thing, but it's like, look at the world around us. Look at all of the crazy, outlandish stuff that's going on in the world around us. I choose not to take things so seriously. I like to joke around a lot. I am playful. I'm sarcastic. I use humor as a way to deal with things a lot. But just taking that approach on life, I think it's helped me not to dwell on things that other people may dwell on. I try to make the best out of situations. I'm one of the people where I think that, all right, we always have conversations about, hey, mental health issues, or we don't have enough conversations about it. But when people talk about mental health, they always talk about, hey, don't be afraid to talk to someone when you need help, blase, blase. And there's always these answers about what you can do if you're suffering from mental health issues, or if there's something that's affecting you mentally. What can you do? My thing is, and it's always been, what can you do to prevent that from happening in the first place? Forget, and I'm not saying forget, but for a moment, forget the remedies and the things that you do to, help yourself out once you're dealing with issues. How can we prevent those issues from happening in the first place? And what I've done over the past, I don't know, I can't place a particular number of years, but it's been a while now. I have cut people out of my life that cause problems. One thing about me, I will not hesitate to cut ties. I will not. The older me was very forgiving. I would give you 1,000,000 chances. I wouldn't spot the signs. Nowadays, me, I protect my peace at all cost. So when it comes to people in my personal life, if I even suspect that you're going to bring issues, I'm snipping you right out because I don't want to deal with it. One thing about me, I am a stay to myself type of person, meaning like I am never going to dump my issues onto you. I'm never going to show up to your house, knocking on your door, crying, wanting to tell you all of my problems. I keep most of my problems to myself, and I handle most of my problems for myself. I don't want other people in my life bringing me their baggage and their problems for me to deal with. That's not to say that I'm not a good friend and I won't talk to you about your issues and handle that. But once I notice that you're that type of person who's just constantly surrounded by drama or problems, I'm snipping you right out of my life. I've cut off a lot of friends and associates over the past decade or so, and it's been the best decision that I've ever made in my life. Sometimes you just got to cut off certain people who cause issues. So that's one of the things that I do to protect my mental health. I go ahead and cut all ties with people who are going to be problematic because I don't want to deal with those problems. Also, what I do is I always make sure to enjoy myself. One thing about me, I'm going to enjoy myself. If I'm ready to get away, I'm gone. If I'm ready to go on vacation, I'm out of here. I've placed myself in a place in my life through hard work, dedication, hustling, you name it, to where I can make those decisions. That if I need a break, I can take a break whenever the hell I want. If I need a vacation, I'm going to get away. So it's all about knowing your limit. I've never reached my limit, but I know when I need to unwind. I know when I need to unplug, and I do whatever I can to enjoy my life. I wake up every day and I don't cut corners. I wake up every day and enjoy my life as much as possible. And I do things that I love. And I have various hobbies that keep me occupied and various, other endeavors and things of that nature that keep me occupied. I always say it, I'll say it again. If you're dealing with a mental health issue, if you're dealing with anything emotionally or mentally, finding a hobby, finding a pastime is like the number one thing you can do in my eyes. Everyone wants to talk, well, you need to take this medication or you need to do this and make these changes. I would highly recommend, before even doing any of that, and I'm not a doctor, find a hobby. Find something you enjoy doing. We as humans were not put here to just work 9 to 5 for someone else. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with working for someone else. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with working a 9 to 5. I'm not saying there's something wrong with any of that. But I'm just saying, as a human being, that wasn't your sole purpose. So find your sole purpose. Yes, you need to work, to survive. But make sure you take time for pleasure and take time for yourself, to just explore yourself, to be alone and to just know yourself. What's my favorite superhero movie, and have I watched She-Hulk? Oh boy, I have watched She-Hulk, and I think it is terrible. I actually have a movie review channel. I haven't reviewed She-Hulk yet, but maybe I will once the season's over on my movie channel. I am a huge Marvel fan. I love She-Hulk. The character of She-Hulk is awesome. I do not like what Marvel has done over the last couple of years. Like after Avengers Endgame, I feel like the MCU has gone downhill drastically. They're not taking care of their characters anymore. The movies and TV shows have been mediocre, if not just downright horrible. My favorite superhero, someone asked me, is Spider-Man. The reason my favorite superhero is Spider-Man is because if you read the comics, he's the most relatable character. I don't really like Superman because he's Superman. He can do anything. He has every power. He's indestructible. He makes for a boring character a lot of times, in my opinion. Spider-Man was always this down-to-earth, nerdy kid. He suffered from financial issues. He was just the most normal comic book character, or superhero, if you ask me. So I always liked Spider-Man. And my favorite superhero movie, and the best superhero movie ever, is Spider-Man 2 by Sam Raimi. The original Spider-Man trilogy. Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock. I think that still is the best superhero movie ever made, hands down. All right. What would be my dream career? Well, growing up, I've always had an interest in filmmaking and writing. So my dream career would have been a filmmaker slash writer. And that was my dream for years on end. And then recently, over like the past 5 or 6 years, as I've gotten older, I've realized how Hollywood is and how Hollywood works. Like as a kid, I wanted nothing more than to make a film and to be in LA, make a movie, get an Oscar or something. But the older I get, the more I realize that I don't want any part of Hollywood. Not only do I not want any part of Hollywood, Hollywood does not want any part of me. The mentality in Hollywood conflicts with my way of life and my way of thinking. And the current climate in Hollywood, they would never allow someone like me to make a movie, yet alone be successful. They would try to destroy me. Because, like I said, my way of life, my beliefs, my values, it conflicts with Hollywood's. And the same thing goes with writing. So it sucked over the past few years coming to that realization that what I always dreamed to aspire to be is no longer really a dream of mine. It's like I still desperately want to make movies and write stories and tell stories. But I don't want to be a part of Hollywood. And I don't want anything to do with those people. And it feels like when you want to go a route of making movies and writing stories, you have to deal with those people. So it's always been like, or at least for like the last few years, it's been difficult for me because it's really a weird situation. It's like the dream is still there, but I'm not as passionate about it because Hollywood has sucked my passion dry. Like, I don't want to be associated with those people. But I'm noticing that there is a movement now for people to make more independent-like films, independent stories, independent comic books. And I'm definitely going to explore going that route one day in the future. Who knows? Maybe one day we'll have a Cinema Shogun Productions and you'll be watching a movie that I made. You know, I definitely won't say that the dream is dead. But that always would have been my dream career. Now, going forward, I really like what I'm doing right now here on YouTube. Of course, I want to take it to a bigger scale, more professional, higher quality equipment. But I really like what I'm doing right now. I like having a voice, and I like being a voice for other people who think similarly to me, but are afraid to speak up. So going forward, my dream careers haven't necessarily changed, but the route that I will take to get there has changed. Are you married? No, I am not married. Do you want to put a ring on it? I'll warn you though, I have expensive taste, okay? I'm not easy to please, so be careful what you wish for. Do I have kids or plan on having kids? I have no kids right now. I do plan on having kids in the future. I want to have 2 kids, a boy and a girl. But if I were to have 2 boys or 2 girls, I may try for a third. But as of right now, I have a lot of things that I want to do before I bring another life into this world. I've watched countless people around me have kids before they were ready, and that's never what I wanted to do. I want to not only be fully financially stable, I want to have most of my goals in order before I bring another life into this world. How did I gain my critical thinking mind? Well, I've always been a observer. I know with a YouTube channel, you may think that I'm this loud, rambunctious person, but I am the most chill, laid back person you will ever meet. I am more of an observer than I am a talker. Like, I'm not going to be the loudest person at a party. I'm not going to be in your face talking loud or bothering you. I'm really chill, like, really, really laid back. Everything's just cooling. You know what I mean? So, I gained my critical thinking mind, I guess, from observing things, observing people. Growing up, like I was talking about earlier, I loved reading, which was really weird for me because I was actually hooked on phonics in like kindergarten and first grade. I was way behind on reading, and I took Hooked on Phonics. Do you all remember Hooked on Phonics? They used to have Hooked on Phonics commercials everywhere. It actually worked. And after going through the Hooked on Phonics program, I never put down a book after that. I mean, now I don't read as much, but growing up, constantly reading. And I wasn't reading stuff like regular kids. Like, at the age of 8 or 9 years old, I was reading about Japanese history. I was reading about feudal Japan and literally like the Ming Dynasty in China and random stuff like that because I was always interested in that knowledge and stuff. So I think that's where I gained it from, was reading and life experiences. I've been through a lot of crazy stuff, and I've always surrounded myself with a smorgasbord of people. Like, I've lived in all types of different areas. I've lived in the projects. I've surrounded myself with people from different walks of life. I always had friends from various different races and ethnic backgrounds, and I just experienced a lot. You know what I mean? So it made me a wiser person. And I always felt like in my friend group, I would sometimes, don't get me wrong, I can be crazy and do some crazy stuff, but I was also the voice of reason. Like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this. But I've always thought about things from like different angles and stuff like that. So I just think that through doing a lot of reading, from keeping an open mind about everything, from what I read to who I hung out with, from having these various life experiences and experiencing life from different angles. You know what I mean? Like, I've been living in the projects, people getting shot around me every day. Like, I've lived through that. And I've also lived in a nice neighborhood. And where I live right now is nice. But it's like dealing with different things in life definitely wisened me up. And being a person that was always willing to listen and observe instead of constantly running my mouth helped me gain certain perspectives, you know? So I've always looked at the world from different angles and different lenses. And I feel like that has helped me out a lot. And I wouldn't change it one bit. What was I like when I was younger? Would I change anything? Well, like I said, when I was younger, I read a lot. I was a really good kid for a while, until a certain age. And then I kind of got in the streets, you know, doing all type of stuff. I was bad, okay? And when I say bad, I was never a bad person, but I would get into trouble. You know what I mean? So it was like a big change for me. I went from being the good kid you never really had to worry about. I always had a lot of friends, and I may get in trouble for talking too much in class and stuff like that, but nothing big. And then, like, when my mother got sick, I think something within me as a kid just kind of snapped and just kind of was like no fucks given going forward. And I was kind of reckless, skipping school, you name it, getting into fights, being on the streets, doing street-like things, if you will. But I wouldn't change it. There are things that I regret, and I feel like I would be at a better place now in life if I had done better or made different decisions or better decisions. But I don't regret it and I wouldn't change it because I believe that it formed me into the person that I am today. I feel like without the mistakes that I've made, without the stupid shit that I did as a kid, that I wouldn't be, who I am today. It formed me into what I think is a better person. Often people, they don't deal with stuff throughout life, and then when they're faced with adversity, they freaking snap. They can't handle the pressure. Me, I've been through a lot of stuff, and I can handle a lot of stuff, and I don't think I would have it any other way because I feel like it prepared me for the reality of the world. How did I come up with the name Cinema Shogun? Well, as I was saying, I really liked Japanese history. I don't know what it was, but feudal Japan and the samurai from back then, like the honor that they had, like they would die for their honor. It just always stuck out to me, that way of life. So Cinema Shogun came from a mixture of two different things. For one, I love movies. Movies, cinema, that's basically what it means. Shogun, a shogun would be like the leader of samurais. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, you would have your emperor, who would be like the leader of Japan, and then you would have shoguns, and they were like the feudal warlords who were battling over Japan. Shoguns were like the head of a Japanese army. So, cinema, shogun, I kind of crammed two things together that I liked and came out with Cinema Shogun. Also because I knew that in my coverage, I would be going to war. Even though I planned on my channel being me talking about movie news and movie stories, I knew that the current climate that we're in today, you can't dislike something without people getting mad. So I took that warlike mentality of a shogun going in, making my YouTube channel because I was prepared for people to be butthurt by my opinions. So, Cinema Shogun it is. What are my passions and hobbies? Well, I love collecting. That's probably my biggest hobby and one of my biggest passions. I love collecting stuff, and I love the feeling of helping someone find that special item that means something to them. For a lot of people, collecting is about sentimental value. Like finding that toy or that little trinket that you had when you were a kid, that fills some type of void in your life or reminds you of better times. So I've been collecting, I guess you could say, my whole life because I've always had this collecting like mentality, not hoarding, but collecting. And I can tell you that if you saw my collection and the stuff that I've come across in my lifetime, it would blow your freaking mind. I'm talking about autographs, rare items, you name it, all type of stuff. So my passion and one of my hobbies has always been collecting action figures, toys, retro video games. I also have a small business selling that stuff as well. So that's probably one of my biggest hobbies and passions. I love going around, traveling the US, going to different stores, Comic Cons, random toy shows, get-togethers, you name it, and just finding rare, hard-to-find items and helping other people find those items. It's always been something that's been really fun for me. And also, it's, in a way, it ties in with history because we're uncovering and finding rare items that have some type of historical value, I guess you could say, or at least one day in the future they would look back on these items and they would be historical. But yeah, that's one of my main passions and hobbies for sure. I love doing it and I always have, and I think I always will. It's something that hasn't ever grown stale for me at all. Let's see, what else do we have here? What's my go-to streaming service? Well, I watch more YouTube than anything else. I watch a lot of YouTube. I used to watch way more YouTube before I started making YouTube videos. But if it's a streaming service, probably Hulu. Which is a weird answer, right? Because I think most people think of Netflix. But Hulu because I'm constantly watching reruns of Bob's Burgers. I don't know what it is, but Bob's Burgers is like my anti-anxiety show. If you're dealing with some anxiety, you got anxiety about something, or your nerves are a little bit bad, you had a bad day, there's something about Bob's Burgers for me that's just calming and soothing. Their storylines never get too crazy. The comedy is kind of dry. It's something about that show. It's like my anti-anxiety show. So every night almost before bed, I probably watch an episode of Bob's Burgers. So Hulu would probably be my go-to streaming service. I'm not here recommending that, oh, it's the best streaming service. But as far as I go, I think I watch that more than anything else. All right, I think I have a few more questions here. Let's see, said the blind man. What's my favorite sport? Football. Of course. What else would it be? Football is by far my favorite sport. Like, it's not even close. Not even remotely close. Like, we have football all the way up here. And then way down here, we might have like basketball and like UFC. I have been watching a lot of UFC lately. As far as football goes, there's a lot of misconceptions out there about who my favorite football team is. Because I often wear hats for different teams and jerseys. Listen, I'm going to tell you all right now. If you're still watching this video, remember this. Never assume that I'm a fan of anything just because I have on a jersey or a shirt or a hat. I like clothes, okay? So I often have hats from teams that I don't like. Sometimes I have hats from teams who I've never even watched play a day in my life. And that's because I like matching my hats with certain shirts. So often people will assume like, oh, you're a fan of the Red Sox. Like, no. This Red Sox hat just matches my polo. I promise you I don't even watch baseball. So yeah, my favorite football team is the Atlanta Falcons. Always has been, always will be. They always break my heart, and I am here getting my heart crushed by them constantly. My second favorite team is the freaking Packers, the Green Bay Packers. I've never even been to Green Bay. I've never even stepped foot in Wisconsin. But growing up, I really loved Brett Favre. And yes, I know Brett Favre has been in the headlines lately. I'm not going to get into that. But my favorite player of all time was Brett Favre. So I always liked the Packers just because of Brett Favre. And going forward, even after he retired, it's just like I had that connection with that team for so long in my life that I always have that connection. Now, as far as the Buccaneers go, I like Tom Brady, and I have a connection to the Buccaneers for a certain reason. And when it comes to other teams, like, I'm someone, like, I don't hop on bandwagons. Like I said, my favorite team is the freaking Atlanta Falcons. But sometimes there'll be players that I think are good or that I'm a fan of. Like, I really like Josh Allen on the Bills. I think he's a great quarterback. I think he's one of the future faces. Like, we got Drew Brees is gone. Tom Brady doesn't have long left. Peyton Manning's gone. I think Josh Allen is the face of the NFL, like, quarterback moving forward. So never assume that I'm a fan of a certain team just because I'm wearing the hat. But I am a fan of the Falcons. I know that was a long-winded answer. Do Cinema Shogun... Hold on, let me take a sip of water before I answer this question. Do Cinema Shoguns throw film reels instead of ninja stars? For one, there is only one Cinema Shogun. I am not a race or a breed of people. I am the one and only Cinema Shogun. So when you refer to Cinema Shogun, you don't say Cinema Shoguns because it's not plural. There will never be another me. But the question says, do Cinema Shoguns throw reels instead of ninja stars? And do I have to commit... I don't know if I can say this word on YouTube. It's like the Japanese equivalent of offing yourself. I don't want them to flag this video. Do I have to commit seppuku? Maybe YouTube won't pick up on that. If a movie I'm reviewing blows bad enough. That's a fun question. As Cinema Shogun, I would definitely throw out film reels instead of Ninja Stars. I think that is a great observation. Do I have to end myself if a movie that I'm reviewing blows bad enough? No, because chances are I will say that movie sucked as well. I know that in the current landscape of YouTube and movie reviews, it's like you have to pretend that you like all movies. Every movie that comes out, oh, this is the best movie since the last movie. This movie's 5 stars, 50 thumbs up. If a movie is garbage, I'm going to be the first to tell you. And I like garbage movies sometimes. So I don't ever have to worry about that, because if a movie blows, chances are I will have already said that it blows. And if it blows and I said it was good, then oh well, because I have my own opinions. But I really did like that. That was an interesting question. But for now, I'm about to go take a freaking breath and log out. Hopefully this video isn't too long. It's probably like 2 freaking hours. Hopefully you all stayed to the end. If you stayed to the end, let me know down in the comments below. While you're matter of fact, there is one more question. I'm going to add this question in for all of you all out there who stuck around. Another question everyone seems to be asking is an update on my finger. Also, there's like rumors spreading around online that I never really hurt my finger, that it was all a scam for me to collect super chats, even though I literally have never live streamed on my channel once. I do not sit here and even ask anyone for super chats. But I've seen the rumors. I've also seen people saying that I put electrical tape on my finger. And I feel like the only people who would assume that I would treat my wounds with electrical tape are people who actually already treated their wounds with electrical tape. But my finger, drum roll please, is coming along just fine. The scab on my finger just peeled off like 4 or 5 days ago, finally. I didn't want to rip it off prematurely because there was actually stitches coming out of the scab, and I don't want to do videos with freaking stitches hanging out of my fingers. But my finger is coming along nicely, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is not tape, it is a splint. You hear that? It's a splint created by the hospital. No, I did not injure my finger and decide to wrap it in surgical tape. If you believe that, then you will believe just about anything. But then again, people are believing anything these days. But I've seen people saying, why does he keep it on there? As if y'all are my doctor or my nurse. So I was just at my physical therapist the other day, and he actually recommended that I keep this little splint that was made personally for me at the hospital. People are freaking weird on the internet, man. It was recommended to me that I keep this one for another 8 weeks. Because what's happening is I'm not used to my finger yet. So oftentimes I am jamming it into stuff all over the place. That's the only inconvenience that I've suffered from so far. You know, from losing this tip of my pinky. Which if you see, it's basically just the pinky tip. Like that much of the pinky is gone. But that's one of the major inconveniences I've suffered from. And basically one of the only inconveniences I've suffered from so far is I'm still getting used to it. Because the finger doesn't curl up the way, you know, your average pinky would, you know? I don't got that extra curl. So when I'm going to grab things, and especially when I'm getting groceries out of the car, I am constantly jamming my finger into things. And the skin right here, it's still really soft. It's almost a little like discolored from bruising. It's still really soft, and it's really, really sensitive. I don't know how long it will be before my finger stops being this sensitive, but it's definitely getting better. At therapy, we do things like dipping my hand into like rice and a jar of nickels and like just getting your finger used to these different textures because it's weird. When losing a fingertip, at least for me, I've noticed that like my sensories and my nerves right here, it's almost like having another fingertip. Like I feel with this like a fingertip. It's really definitely weird. But yeah, fingers coming along nicely. Medical professionals have recommended that I still wear my splint so I don't continue to jam it into stuff and hurt myself over and over again. But I am happy that I have a lot of doctors and nurses in my comment sections that have been diagnosing me with all types of stuff that isn't true and have been spreading rumors about me wrapping my hand in, what was it, electrical tape and lying for super chats. Like, I don't get it. I don't get why people create these weird scenarios in their head online. But if that's what y'all do for entertainment, have at it. Have at it. But usually when you break a finger or something, you would have a different type of finger splint. But when you cut a piece of your finger off, they don't have finger splints that are going to fit you perfectly. So they take this material and they make you one, your own personal little splint. They actually had different colors I could choose from, but I went with black. But yeah, that answers that question. All right, now with all that being said, let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. Would you like to see another Q&A? Are you happy you saw the pinky reveal? Go ahead and say bye to my little nub down in the comments below as well. But while you're down there, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.